What's up, guys? I'm here with my friend Megan.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about letting go of things and moving on to new things, because sometimes we can get stuck in the old. I feel like recently you've had a lot of changes, and so you're a good person to talk to about this.
Lots has changed in my life lately.
Location, relationships,
job.
I feel like you probably could give a lot of people some good insights on how to really move past stuff that's holding you back and accept new, even though it can be scary sometimes. What are some things that you have had to let go of, be it physical things or just ideas about yourself and your life that you've had to just let go because they weren't serving you in order for you to move on and get where you are now?
A lot, because I was asking for big change in my life and wanting to kind of go in a 180 direction, and that really started with more of ideas or things, or kind of like energetic things that I really had to let go of first in order for my reality to kind of shift. And that took time, and I'd say the biggest thing that I had to let go of was my perfectionism. I can be such a perfectionist, and I never thought that before, but I had a situation where I faced that like very powerfully, and I saw all of the things that I am a perfectionist on, and the biggest thing was myself. And I realized how I didn't see my full beauty or experience my full beauty in the way that I needed to, and because of that I wasn't experiencing the full beauty of other people and of everything else. I was living in this mindset of beautiful and ugly, good and bad, perfect and imperfect, with everything in life. And when I saw that so powerfully, I realized that that is really what was holding me back. And when I started having conversations with other people about it, I realized, like, especially as women today, with what is just in the media all of the time, it's really hard to weed through all of that and to not feel like you're totally imperfect sometimes. I guess I just, more than anything, had to let go of my perfectionism, and in turn I had to let go of what I thought was best for me, what I thought was like this perfect, amazing life, which in my mind that was working in fashion and living in New York City, having a really fast-paced lifestyle, kind of being a party girl, and
the opposite of what you are now.
Totally, and I'm completely opposite than that now. And how I am now, I feel, of course, there's always growth to happen, and like there's still so many things that I want, but I feel so much more in alignment with my true self now. And that was like just this foggy perfectionist, like total lack mindset version of me. And I was surviving for sure, and like in some people's mind I was thriving because I had a really amazing job that paid me well and was around cool people, living a fast-paced life, and wore beautiful clothes. But I was like dying inside because I just saw things so black and white instead of like seeing the unity and the beauty in everything.
And did you feel like emotionally like it was either happy, sad?
Like,
you couldn't have anything in between, like
and when I was living that way, it was like very unstable emotions of like, I'm either riding really high and I'm really happy, or I'm riding really low and like super depressed. I would go through these super highs and lows all the time. And now that I see, and still it's a daily practice of like coming back to unity and seeing everything as love and beauty, but like coming back into that is balance, and in turn like has brought so much balance.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a reoccurring theme for everyone in our group, is focusing on balance.
It is.
Because we're all coming from imbalance physically, emotionally, and stuff. And so we're all kind of focusing on balance for ourselves and also within the group. And group dynamics, social balance, all kinds of things. And yeah.
It's so true. We're all very aware, I feel, of like what feels balanced in our group and in each other's lives, and we're like totally unafraid to be honest with each other about what we see that is not the best for someone.
Yeah, not serving someone, yeah. So I'm curious if you could share, I guess, what a day in the life looked like for you during this really unbalanced time. Because maybe people can connect to that for them in their daily life.
Yeah, I would say, so in college is a different story. For those of you that are in college, like, that's amazing. If you still want to be in college, like, truly, then that's a totally different kind of day-to-day life. I graduated from college 3 years ago now, so not that long ago. And right after that, of course, life changed so much, and I moved to New York City. My day-to-day life there was, wow, just non-stop. And I was also living a very fast-paced version of a city life. Like, you can live kind of chill in a city, or you can like really hustle in a city, and I was like overly hustling in the city. So I was waking up in my apartment in Brooklyn around 5:30, 6 a.m. and really kind of rushing to get ready. And it's so funny, like, my getting ready now and my getting ready then. Getting ready then, I was putting on a lot of makeup. At the time, I was dealing with really bad acne. And of course, I was really embarrassed by it. And I was like, at the time in New York, I was in fashion, but also worked in health. And so I was working in health then. And just being in that industry, it's like, really I wanted to be perfect. Yeah. And so I wore a lot of makeup. And so it took me maybe 20 plus minutes to do my makeup in the morning. I haven't worn makeup in like a real long time, which is like, I'm totally makeup free right now. But I would do that for a while and then get dressed in some really nice clothing and then really rush out the door, not make breakfast. I never made breakfast. I worked for a company that provided food for us, so I just ate that pretty much, but would rush to the train.
Coffee?
Well, not yet.
Okay.
I was such a coffee drinker, you guys, such a coffee drinker. I have it every now and again now, but like makes me feel really imbalanced. But I would rush to the train, often like running, and I counted that as my exercise during the day. I was never exercising, like no yoga, no nothing else. So I'd kind of like fast walk or sprint to the F train and then take that into the city, and on my way into the office I would stop at La Colombe and get an almond latte. And then I would go like pretty much every single day. It was like a $6 latte, and I did that almost every day. And then I would go into my office and be there probably until 7 or 8 p.m. and then either eat dinner there or get takeout on the way home, or eat really rushed at home, go to bed around midnight, I'd say, and do it all over again.
Wow.
And I was so burned out during the weeks that maybe some of you can relate to this. I have a lot of friends that definitely can. I was so burned out from working hard during the week and just being around an energetic city that on the weekend I would tune out and like totally hermit, isolate myself.
So you weren't like partying on the weekends?
Sometimes. But it kind of got to, I did that in college a lot. Like I partied a lot in college, and when I was interning in the city in the summers, I partied way too much. That the year after college, so like the year before I moved here, every weekend I would turn my phone off, I wouldn't see anybody, and I would sleep and nap probably 2 or 3 times a day on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's really funny, when Evan and I started our relationship, we started it long distance for like 4 or 5 months, and all the while when we were talking on the weekends, like the only time we would talk on the weekends was in between my naps. So it was really funny because it got to a point where I was like, all that I did on the weekends was sleep, and then if I wasn't sleeping, I was eating or talking to Evan.
Aww.
That was it. But I was
cute.
so exhausted.
Aww.
All the time.
Wow. And that's how you came to us.
That's how I came to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Thankfully, thank you, exhaustion, because it brought me into
right?
good things.
I know. I think that sometimes too for myself. I think like, you know, I'm really grateful that I got so sick that it kind of threw me into this new world, because
Yeah.
we wouldn't do it otherwise.
Mm-mm.
We would just keep going. But like once you're here, you're glad to be here.
You can't know the balance or have change unless you know imbalance, and
Yeah.
unless you like do some hard work to get the change.
Definitely.
It's worth it. It's so worth it.
So how does this compare? I'm sure it's a huge contrast to your days now.
Now I never know what I'm gonna do during the day. Like every day is seriously so different, because I now am my own boss. I totally work for myself and not for anyone else. And with that, I also have a bunch of different projects that I do for myself. And so just with that, every day, it's like I never really know what I'm gonna wake up to work on. But there are some things throughout the day that I started doing that really helped me to just feel grounded, and that is my morning practices, which I did not have in New York. I mean, like I just told you, I was like waking up to rush and like rushing all day. And now when I wake up, I just take it really slow. I wake up with the sun, and which is usually like 6 or 6:30, and I do some like kind of yoga, but more sometimes it's like a full Ashtanga practice, like just primary series Ashtanga practice. Sometimes it's just light stretching, but I always just like want to stretch out my body in the morning in silence. And then I sit in meditation, and then write a little bit, and then just kind of start whatever. And I never know what it will be. It might be like doing this and like doing a video, or just hanging out with people, or working on my jewelry business, which actually takes up the majority of my time. And then at night, every night is kind of the same, unless we're going out or having a potluck or something. But Evan and I have dinner together every single night, and then go to bed at like 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Which is when I was like getting off of work before.
So you're waking up later and going to bed earlier.
I'm finally sleeping.
Yeah.
I swear I'm still catching up on sleep. Yeah, I feel like that's also one of the like vastly biggest differences in my life now, is that I have a consistent sleep schedule.
Yeah.
I was a crazy insomniac before, for many reasons, not just not sleeping or bad sleeping habits, but also just my lifestyle, and like drinking too much coffee, drinking alcohol, not having a great diet. Like all of those things contributed, but I was a horrible insomniac, seriously, until I moved here a little over a year ago. And yeah, I now finally have a consistent sleep schedule that allows me to be super productive, but like smart kind of productive during the day, and still hustle, but like in my own healthy way. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like sleep is so important.
It seems like you're able to actually show up as like a conscious, aware person of like what you're doing, instead of just like running around and showing up as like a body in a space.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's the perfect way to put it. Yeah. Sleep allows you to be an aware, like present person for everything that you do throughout the day. Because if you're not sleeping well, like you don't feel like you're fully alive.
Do you feel like you could have stayed in that same place, like stayed in New York and made these changes, or do you feel like you actually needed to change locations in order for you to check in with what you really needed to do for yourself?
That's a really good question, because I kind of tried that for the last few months that I lived there. Like I said, I've known for about 2 years that I need to make big changes, but it took me time to have the courage to actually make those changes. So the last couple of months that I lived in New York, so I came out to Hawaii in March, and then I moved out of New York in May, and then moved to Hawaii in July. And so after March, when I got back from being here, changed my entire life. Just that 1 week visit here in that March. And I went back and started to try to make a lot of changes. And was very, very open to, I mean, I had no other option. Like, I didn't come to Hawaii and say, I'm moving back. I was still very open, like, of wanting to leave New York, but also open to staying. So I went back in the mindset, of course, of like, you know, this is where I am. This is probably where I need to stay, but not really wanting to. So I tried to wake up even earlier and do some morning practices, started cooking for myself more, meditating more, but the energy of where I was living was not conducive to the kind of life that I truly wanted to live, or really what I feel like is that I needed to live in order to just be me. I feel like I had to leave, like I could not have stayed there and been myself, but also at the same time I could have, because we can do anything, you know, it's not so much about the place or the people or the food or anything. Like, those are beautiful cherries on top to what is going on inside of us. But, you know, if I'd stayed in New York and continued to work on my inner world and my consciousness, then I'm sure it would have showed up in my life there and been a lot easier, but also not, because I just intuitively had no other option but to change locations and to put my body somewhere where it could really thrive and really be what I feel like it was made to be. And that happened to be, and happens to be, the Big Island of Hawaii. So not New York City. They're very different places. Yeah.
I've experienced that as well, living in different places, and I temporarily lived in California. And I always felt like, oh, that must be such a cool place to live, and it's so beautiful. But for me, the amount of people that were there and the rush that was felt by the people there, of the hustle of like needing to make money because it's so expensive to live there, and just the amount of people that want to live there, like you can just feel everyone around you. The Big Island is really my favorite place because there's not as many people, but also just the whole energy of the island, the fact that nature is still so in control here.
Yeah.
And we're just
I know, in a city everyone's like kind of hustling. I feel like the difference I feel is that they're hustling there out of a lot of fear for survival, because surviving in a big city like San Francisco or New York feels so different than hustling for survival on a tropical island.
Right.
And it's a very fearful kind of hustle, and I felt that too. It was really energetically hard to be around, and just, yeah, it was like totally whacking out my health and my mindset. It was a lot easier for me in that kind of environment to get in a very negative kind of lack mindset, whereas here, of course, I still do that because I'm human, but it's a lot easier to come out of it.
Yes, definitely. Agreed. This island is a very special place.
It is.
Yeah. And I'm happy you're here now.
Me too.
Double Megans.
You got 2 Megans now. There's a lot of Megans here.
There are.
But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this interview, and go check out Megan on her channel, Megan Steele. And we'll link you down below. And you've got Instagram and YouTube.
Yes.
Right?
And my jewelry website too.
Yes.
But I post a lot of my jewelry and kind of what's going on with it on Instagram at Steele Henry as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know Megan yet, she is Like I met you through Evan. She's new on the scene.
I'm new on the scene, you guys.
And her and Evan just got engaged.
Yes,
and we're super stoked and excited for them. And yeah, you guys are a fucking great couple. Great.
I think so too.
Yeah, so we're stoked to have Megan here, and yeah, so go check her out on YouTube and check out her awesome jewelry. It's really beautiful. All right, guys, take care.
See ya.